What's up, guys? Today I've got some ship docking news for you. I've got massive caves, and we've got a reputation UI to take a look at, amongst other things. And while you're watching, don't forget to keep an eye out for that secret code I've been embedding in my videos that'll help you with my ship giveaways. And if you're on my Twitch stream, you may remember last year we made a little bit of a deal. If we reached a certain goal, I'd get a tattoo of something special. Well, we did. So I got the tattoo, and I'll be showing it off on my Twitch streams the next couple streams, so if you want to see it, come over and check it out down in the video description. Other than that, let's get to this week's review and see what new exciting stuff's happening in Star Citizen. Thank you for coming to my Tomato Talk. One of the most sci-fi things I can think of that humans are already capable of doing is docking spaceships together. It's part of why I originally became an engineer. I actually worked on kinetic docking systems for CubeSats in low Earth orbit. It's an incredible achievement, really. And while it might not be as big a deal in a video game, it can certainly elicit similar feelings. Flying into a space station is cool, but seeing a massive ship docked up beside it that's half the size of that station is much cooler, and Star Citizen is finally going to include these scenarios, but not as just set dressing. Our own friends are going to be able to park their capital-sized JPEGs up next to the station, load in cargo, passengers, offload minerals or scientific findings, and more. We'll no longer be limited to the landing pads of the space stations, which also means larger ships may now be spawnable at space stations as well. The system and UI, which we've been hearing about for months, if not years at this point, seems to be pretty solid and thought out. While it's not the most aesthetically pleasing layout, it's one that we won't be seeing very often, and it remains functional. That's what really matters. Now, we're also seeing the first version of ship-to-ship docking. This is probably going to be an even cooler experience, and while this is likely to be a little bit glitchy and buggy at first, when it works, I'm sure it's going to be a good old time. But what CIG kind of skims over is how important this development is in the greater scheme of things. The thing that's always held back ship-to-ship docking has been the intersection and communication of different physics grids. See, if every ship has its own up, down, left, right, and the gravity to correspond with those things, then getting that to work together is kind of a development nightmare. That they've gotten this figured out and working in an online environment is nothing but good news for things like external cargo grids and transforming ships. Both features that apply to the whole series of cargo ships. See, this is why some features take a long time, but we get to see some of the benefits on the way to that end goal. The ultimate goal of physics grid interaction isn't ship-to-ship docking alone, but here they have achieved it, and the more difficult goals aren't even on the roadmap yet. It's another instance of a long sought-after technology being implemented into the game, adding pretty early on to the big year of development that 2021 seems to be shaping up to be. Next up, we got a sprint report. And I love a good sprint report. And this is a good sprint report. We started out with caves. No, not the caves we all know. I'm talking caves you can land in, caves you can fly in. Caves that you'll need a vehicle to traverse and get those massive mining deposits. This feature will be interesting. I find myself wondering, how many will there be? Will they be labeled for anybody to fly directly to? Will we have different materials like ice caves?
Systems, abilities for the player to, I don't know, like slide down slopes, to climb steep walls, to be able to swim for a start. All these things that first need to be implemented to add more traversal mechanics, for example, to the caves, so we have more interesting layouts and traversal challenges in there, and then more features for the actor status system, so we can add hazards, like I said, lava pools and that sort of thing. So we definitely have ideas on that and some prototypes, and we just need to implement them for real.
The best thing about this to me is how good it already looks. This is supposedly the debug state, before art has been applied. I'm also into how big they are, just looking at the scale from some of these shots. Rappelling functionality when? This is another feature that we heard first about when regular caves are being worked on almost 2 years ago, and we will now be seeing in-game shortly. Next, we got to see more of the polish that's going into the next star system, anticipated to be released within the next 18 months. While not as exciting as the other topics, these harvestables are still important when it comes to commerce, science, and even possibly your character's health. We all eat some weird things every once in a while, right? Just me? And while these are the only 2 harvestables we've been shown, I think we can still expect more to come before release. The bearing breaching charge is something I didn't expect to see yet, but I think is going to be very cool, and will most likely tie into the derelict space stations and the missions they bring, which we know have received some work in the last year. I say this because these charges were specifically described as being for locked doors. But for anybody who has been around for a while or has watched some of my very first videos here on YouTube, you know that there are more possibilities to these charges than they're letting on. Don't forget, the devs are without a doubt working on explosive decompression as well. A quick update was given on some of the new logos going towards the companies that will populate the game and add to some of the background of some areas. While also not particularly exciting, these are important in creating the companies you work for and with throughout your time in space that you'll be gaining a reputation with, which we will touch on in a couple minutes here. We got to see a bit more of the colonialism-style towns being worked on for the less populated areas in the game. These will act as stop-offs and places you can quickly go to get food, drink, rest, and additional missions if you aren't about that city life. Here, we're getting more detail on the props that go into making the areas feel alive, and every time we see this feature, it looks more and more detail as it heads towards final production. You know those kiosks where you have to keep paying those fines for moving even though you didn't move and the cops are they're all over you about it? Yeah, well, at least now those kiosks will be looking better. These new designs are pretty snazzy, even though I'll never see them because I'm a good law-abiding tomato, discounting the UEE's prejudice against fresh fruit. And finally, a feature that is almost as exciting as the new star map, which I talked about in the monthly report earlier this week: the reputation system. Not just the system though, as that's already partially in the game. No, the UI for it. And it looks really cool. There's a ton of good information here that builds on both the lore of everything in the game, as well as your standing in different categories per company. Almost as if you can work with the different departments of the company and have multiple sets of reputations for each entity. But who knows how deep they'll go with that. One of the single biggest ways to expand the motivation of players in the game is through reputation, and this UI will allow you to track your progress and standing with any company, even your own ship or arms manufacturer. Because in Star Citizen, every company is a potential mission giver and payout provider. Doing work with one could work for or against you with another. And being able to track and improve those standings with the different companies gives players another thing to shoot for, another goal, another milestone to aim for, and another drive to jump back into the game and play. And reputation in a game that is purely skill-based rather than level-based is about as important as currency. Honestly, I'm feeling a much more distinct excitement for this year than I did last. These weekly updates are really bolstering my confidence in the year of development. Now, it's always important to maintain some skepticism and not count on anything being 100% confirmed. But over time, CIG is getting a little bit better at communicating their own skepticism in delivery, as things can slip and slide in software development. Keep an eye on that roadmap, and keep coming back to this channel, and I'll let you know what you can definitely expect to see as we get closer to the updates. And if you'd like to get into the game for free, there will be a free fly event on February 15th that will allow you to jump in and join my own in-game group to see what Star Citizen has to offer right now. You can use the link in the description to join with some extra money in your pocket, and I'll see you there. And don't forget, I also host ship giveaways here in the video description down below and over on my Twitch stream Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. So hop on over if you want to win a ship. And I would like to thank my Patreon members so much for all the support they've been giving me, guys. Every month we're stepping one step closer to me and my wife moving back to the US, and I'm very thankful for that. For everybody else, I hope you've enjoyed this, I hope you've learned something, and I hope you subscribe and decide to come back for the next one. If so, I'll see you there. Big thanks to my top supporters TK, the Alpaca, the Huntress, Benin, Dasek, Holstenkoop, Guilty Conscience, and Falcus Vipus.